Hi, everyone. It's Fentress Driskell, Democratic leader in the Florida House. Welcome to our latest edition of the Driskell Debrief, which is our Tuesday nightly live stream. I really appreciate you tuning in. I kind of want to say, so Florida, what's new since we've been on last? I'll tell you that yesterday we saw some monumental Supreme Court decisions that came out from the Florida Supreme Court. We'd all been waiting for months to see what would happen with a few different things. The first is there was a 15-week abortion ban that was passed by the Florida legislature back in 2022. They followed that up with a 6-week ban in 2023. And we were waiting to hear from the Florida Supreme Court to see what would happen. Would those bans get struck down? Would the 6-week ban be allowed to go into place? That's basically what happened. The 15-week ban was affirmed, which paved the way for the 6-week ban to then go into effect. Basically, the Supreme Court said that the state government can regulate abortion. They can allow basically politicians to look over our shoulders in the exam room and decide what's best for us. We know that at 6 weeks, most women don't even know that they're pregnant. So this is as close to an outright ban as you can get. So that was one decision. The possible silver lining-ish, I mean, it was a real mixed bag, was that they are going to allow language to be on the ballot this November when we all go and vote so that Floridians can take power back into their own hands and decide whether or not there should be government interference in abortions. Or how far the state can go when they want to interfere with that very personal medical decision. And I mean, that is a personal decision of heart and home. We never know what people are going through. And I just err on the side of compassion. So Florida voters will have the chance to make their voices heard at the ballot box this November. That's Amendment 4. Here we say yes on 4 because we think it's important to vote for all of our freedoms, to protect all of our freedoms. And then the third thing was there's an amendment, it's Amendment 3. It's ballot language that would legalize the use of adult marijuana or adult use of marijuana in the state of Florida. So that was approved. That is going to be on the ballot as well. So there's a lot happening in our state. But I did want to take the time to focus in today and hear from two amazing women from the state of Florida, just two incredible leaders that I certainly feel blessed to know. Let me tell you a little bit about them so we can bring them to the stage and get into our conversation. The first is Michelle Grimsley Shindano. Michelle is the Director of Public Policy for the Florida Alliance of Planned Parenthood Affiliates. She is a Florida native like me. She was born and raised in Bradenton, Florida. Not like me, but it's not that far away. She has been in the legislative process for 6 years now. She was formerly a legislative aide to a member of the House. That's actually how we met. And then she ran for office herself. And then she became a lobbyist in the process, advocating for her clients. And now she's with Planned Parenthood. I asked her what her favorite color is, and she told me that it's pink. So I feel like it was written in the stars for her to be with Planned Parenthood because they are known for the color pink. So let me bring to the stage Michelle. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And then we have another guest, Christina Diamond. So let me tell you about my friend Christina. She is the CEO of Ruthless Florida. She has spent the last 15 years working in Florida politics, although how's that possible? She doesn't look a day over 21. She's the president and owner of Diamond Strategies, a campaign consulting firm that helps clients engage and attract donors. She's built statewide strategies and she helps them communicate effectively. Her clients include the Florida Alliance, Future Majority, and advising candidates up and down the ballot. She has served as senior advisor and finance director for the Florida Democratic Party and U.S. Senator Bill Nelson's Senate campaign. She lives in St. Petersburg with her husband, who's also a friend, and their 3 kids. Let me bring to the stage Christina Diamond. Hi, Christina.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for having me tonight.
I'm doing well. So I'm so excited. We're lucky sometimes if we get one guest, but we've got 2. And oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. So I'm going to start with Michelle. Actually, Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about Planned Parenthood? Like, tell us about Planned Parenthood's mission and the role that it plays in abortion access.
Sure. Thank you for that question. I love being able to talk about Planned Parenthood and the services that we provide. Um, Abortion is always front of mind for people when they hear Planned Parenthood, but we do so many other things. We provide um, sexual infection screenings. We provide cancer screenings, behavioral health services. Um, One of our clinics in South Florida has recently started vasectomies. People go to our clinics for gender affirming healthcare. Some people go to our clinics just to be able to get their regular OBGYN screenings. So we do so much for people. I have talked to so many elected officials, former elected officials, friends even, that said, when I was in college or when I was younger, Planned Parenthood is the only way I was able to go to the doctor. So I just want people to know and understand that, yes, we are an abortion provider, but we do so much more than abortion. Um, and the thing that I love about our organization is our mission is care no matter what, period. So
Mhm.
we do whatever we can to make sure that if you come into our offices, we are going to be able to give you the care that you need.
Well, I love that mission. And let me share with you and with our audience, because the audience knows how much I love hearing people's stories. And my theory of the case is that stories are what connect us, whether we're in the Keys or the Panhandle, whether we vote red or blue. We are all impacted by these laws. Like, these laws don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, an NPA, whether you're a registered voter or not. These laws are going to impact us. And so, part of this little experiment that we're doing here on Tuesday night is to educate and inform our viewers, but to also help people understand their commonalities. And I've had the opportunity post session to travel the state a bit and speak with local Democratic parties all over the state. And at the gala on Saturday night in Hillsborough County, there was a woman, she's actually from Pasco, and she shared her story with me as we were contemplating what might happen with these rulings. And she was sharing that she moved to Florida when she was an adult. She moved here to take care of an aging mom. When she moved here, she no longer had her employment, but she was pouring everything into helping her mom. She needed health care. She couldn't get it. And so she relied on Planned Parenthood for her gynecological care, for her well women's exams. And Planned Parenthood was instrumental in helping to keep her healthy and safe, which we know that every Floridian deserves that. So let me bring Christina into the conversation. Christina, why don't you tell the audience a bit about Ruth's List and what Ruth's List mission is?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. I'm thrilled to be with both of you tonight. Our mission is really focused on electing women who, at all levels of government, are going to fight for the women's right for abortion care. And so we really think about this as building the bench of women who are going to serve at all levels, who are going to fight for our right for access to abortion care, and know that this is a private decision between families, women's, and their doctors, and that government really has no place in this. And we're thrilled that the ballot initiative language is going forward and that people's voices are going to be heard. Over 1 million people of all parties signed this ballot initiative, and we support the ballot initiative. We think it's going to pass. And where our kind of feelings align on this is that we need more Democratic women in the legislature to ensure that this is properly adopted. And we do that by recruiting women to run for office, supporting them, teaching them how to run for office, and really seeing them through into November. When you look back at the past couple legislative sessions, Ventress, you were there on the floor fighting.
I was there, girl.
You were there. These women legislators were really on the floor fighting with everything that they had to stop some of these really bad bills from passing. And we just need more voices in Tallahassee, more voices in the community advocating for this. And what we've learned is, even though we're very focused on making sure women have a right to choose, the women that are serving, again, at all levels of government, they're fighting for women's issues across the board. But from what we can see, what's going on in the legislature, we just need more of them serving. And that's our goal here at Bruce List.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I guess if I was sharing a personal story, that's technically a testimony. So my testimony, my story is that Ruthless helped me to get my start. Y'all, I will sing Ruthless praises wherever I go, because when you feel that tug at your heart, that tug of service that you want to run for office, that's step one. But then step two is, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And Ruthless really wrapped their arms around me, taught me how to make fundraising calls, taught me that I needed a fundraising plan, so many ins and outs. And so it really is a phenomenal resource. I'll also share with you all that when I decided to run, the Florida House was comprised of fewer than 30% women.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's astonishing, because we're certainly 1 out of every 2 people, at least in the state of Florida.
Yeah. And now we actually have a number of women serving. I mean, when you look out at your caucus now, a large percent of them now are women.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've grown our numbers.
It's true. And we'll continue to do that. So, Michelle, kind of going back to you, talking about the legislative process, I know that Planned Parenthood plays a significant role in the legislative process, and not with just Democrats, right? Like talking to Republicans too. Could you talk about that? Because our viewers may not be aware.
Of course. So our role is really multifaceted in this legislative process. No 2 days look alike for us during session. Some days we are working with coalition partners. Some days we are analyzing bills and analyzing bills to be able to educate partners, constituents, our neighbors, our friends, so that they can advocate for themselves. And then we meet with legislators on both sides of the aisle, because we don't believe that just talking to our Democratic allies is going to get the job done. We need to be able to educate those that may not have our same belief system on why we don't believe certain bills are good, or why certain bills are bad, and how they could have a negative impact on our providers, on our patients. So our role in the legislative process is truly multifaceted. And I really, really enjoy being able to talk to so many people at the Capitol day in and day out. And it's really a lot of fun. And I really, really appreciate the support that we get from all of our supporters. People travel from South Florida, from all over the state, to come up to bare their souls, to speak in committee, just to be able to be a part of that process. And I'm just happy to be able to assist them in that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, what Michelle is referring to is that when a bill comes up in a committee, when we're in legislative session, the public can come and give testimony on that bill. They can talk about whether they're for or against it, how that law might impact them. And hearing testimony from the public, I've experienced some of the most powerful moments in the legislature. Because, like I said, these bills don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, male, female. They don't care how you identify. They don't care your race, your gender, your sex. They don't care anything, your ethnicity. These laws are coming one way or another. And they've been impacting us all. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle. And so, Christina, we started to talk about how there's been an increase in women serving in the legislature. And we know that that is in large part due to Ruthless, at least on the Democratic side. Could you talk more about why it is so important to have women in the legislature? Whether that's, and you mentioned like in the legislature, but up and down ballot. And I know you've had some recent successes in municipal elections. So maybe you could talk about that too.
Yeah. So I think part of this is just having representation at the table and people having a lived experience. So whether it's women or diversity, like whatever it is, you want people to come to the legislature with different viewpoints and the way they've lived their lives and different experiences. And it shapes the way they think about the legislation and how they're going to vote on the floor. I mean, listen, I give a lot of props to the men who advocate for our issues too. But when it comes to women advocating for other women and their, what they're facing in life, there's just a whole nother passion there. I think what I see now, this cycle, is a whole new level of enthusiasm from our women running and the people on the ground, right? I think that Florida has obviously gone in a way that the will of the people think it's way too extreme. And I could go through kind of every aspect that it's from book banning to access to healthcare to transportation. It's too extreme for the way that people are thinking about how they want their legislature to be voting. And abortion care is just one of those. And women who are running right now are fired up, and the women that are supporting other women are fired up. And so I think that this cycle, you're going to see like a whole new level of enthusiasm. And after what happened yesterday with the ballot initiative, we're thrilled that it's going to be on the ballot, but having also the 6-week abortion ban come into play, Florida has been a place where people have been able to seek care while abortion bans continue throughout the country. But now that's going to be further limited, and patients are going to have to go even further. And so I think that between the fact that the ballot initiative is going to be on the ballot in November, and the fact that they're further extending the law to 6 weeks, is just going to be another driving force for women who are running for office and the people on the ground supporting them.
I agree. And I would say, I don't think that a lot of folks understand that there's a 6-week ban that is imminent. Like it goes into effect in like 29 days, I think.
That's
So
right.
maybe Michelle, could you tell us a little bit about, A, whether abortion is still legal in Florida, and B, what the impact of these rulings are on abortion access in Florida and throughout the Southeast, if you want to comment on that.
Sure. Thank you. So first and foremost, abortion is legal in the state of Florida today. Do not let anyone tell you any different.
Okay.
So right now we are still under the 15-week ban. So we are expecting around May 1st for the 6-week ban to take in effect. So that is going to really change the face of abortion care in our state. And I refer to it as a near total ban, because most women don't know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks. God forbid you have an irregular period. You really would have no idea that you were pregnant at 6 weeks. So you're automatically excluded from receiving that health care in our state now. So with the 15-week ban, when that was implemented, there was a 24-hour rule. So that means that when you go in to see a provider and you say you want to have an abortion, by law, you cannot get that abortion in the same day. You go through a few steps, have conversations, you have your ultrasound, and you have to wait 24 hours from that appointment to be able to actually receive an abortion. So if someone comes in under the 6-week ban at 5 weeks and 6 days, they probably will not be able to receive an abortion in our state. So it really is going to just change. It's going to hurt a lot of people. It's going to deny a lot of people access to, in some cases, a life-saving procedure.
So wait, I want you to wait. I want you to get on and talk about the impact to the Southeast. But two things that you just said really struck me, right? The first is that where the impact of these bills just keeps going from bad to worse.
Yes.
Because I remember with the 15-week ban, that has no exception for rape or human trafficking. None.
Right.
And I remember that we pushed for amendments for that because those are two of the most horrible, just evil, cruel experiences a person can go through.
Yes.
And they refused to allow that compassion for women who'd been raped or human trafficked or victims of incest.
Yes.
And with the 6-week ban, I don't even think I had contemplated that if you are at 5 days and 5 weeks and 6 days, then you are probably too late.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, the one thing there is an exception for rape, incest, in the 6 week ban, and it's up to 15 weeks, and but the victim has to prove that they have been raped. There are so many different cases that a victim may not always report. So what proof will they be able
Mm.
to show that they have been victimized? So we're grateful for that exception, but we don't know how impactful that's going to be for a lot of victims.
Thank you for pointing that out. I mean, Christina, I just think that yes, we need more women who are there who are going to advocate and protect these rights. Our caucus always talks about, we say our messaging is that every Floridian deserves the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe.
Mhm.
And I humbly believe that. Um, don't you think we need more women in the legislature and just in government generally to help protect these rights?
I mean, this really shouldn't even be a topic for discussion for the legislature. I mean, politicians just shouldn't have a role like in these private decisions. They shouldn't be the ones determining, you know, when you can get abortion care or why you're getting abortion care, or like I said, these are decisions that are between, spouses and family members and a woman and her doctor, and very personal decisions. And we shouldn't be letting the legislature and politicians kind of opining and creating boundaries around that. I mean, we need to trust women to make decisions for whatever reason they are, and they shouldn't be questioned. And so that's what I mean when we need more women to be serving, to kind of recognize that and know that this is just not really up to kind of government officials to decide this.
Yeah, thank you for that. I can remember when we were dealing with the 15-week and maybe also the 6-week ban, reading is it the Turnaway study?
That one. What
Yeah,
one is that?
is it Turnaway or Turnaround study? I thought it was Turnaway study. I'll have to get the name of it and maybe mention it on a future live stream, but it's basically this study about women who seek abortion access and really trying to understand the complicated circumstances that they sometimes go through. Many of them are women who already have families, but they're struggling financially. Like there's so much tied into this. And when I think about women or I think about families, when you think about any person, I think you have to look at the person holistically, and with compassion. And it seems that government should be trying to help people lead a good life and then maybe get out of the way. Florida has the highest property insurance rates in the country. Healthcare access is hard to find and it's getting harder to afford. Car insurance rates are high, inflation is high, utilities are high. Everything is getting more expensive, and our wages haven't kept up with that. And so families are feeling the squeeze. Florida's becoming too expensive for some Floridians. And so if we say we want to protect families, we say we want to give people a good shot at living the American dream or pursuing their version of it, we say we want families to be healthy and whole, then I think we have to look at whole families and make sure that we are creating circumstances where people can have thriving families, not just in survival mode all the time.
That's right. That's right. And I think people, are getting abortion care for a whole lot of different reasons. And like I said, they're personal decisions. And, Fentress, you know me and my family very well. I have 3 small kids, and I can tell you firsthand, as a working mother, there are just no support services once you have a child. I mean,
Mm.
the public schools are not up to standard. There are very limited daycare options all across the state. Finding affordable quality daycare is very hard. And so when you want to talk about like supporting women and doing the right things that align with our values, let's start with some of that. Affordable housing, access
Mhm.
to healthcare, access to quality public schools, access to support services. Because right now, across the board, Florida does not support working families.
Yeah.
Leader, there's one thing I want to point out, that we are already at a shortage for OBGYNs in our state. And the stricter these laws get, especially around abortion access, the more OBGYNs we're going to lose, because they are afraid, literally afraid to practice in the state of Florida because they could be sued, they could be arrested for doing their job. So it's these laws are just harming Floridians on so many different levels.
Thank you for centering on providers, because we have talked about patients. It's so important to also talk about providers. And a lot of our viewers may not know that with some of the recent laws, it actually can put people under threat of criminal penalty, put doctors under threat of criminal penalty just for doing their jobs and trying to help their patients. And that is so wrong. I think it's cruel. I think that it is, frankly, just, ignoring science and ignoring their expertise and tying their hands when they may need to intervene to really help a patient. I wanted to ask you too, Michelle, because I know that there was a case at the United States Supreme Court level dealing with mifepristone. Hope I said it right. Oh, it gets me every time, girl, every time. But why don't you talk about what's been happening with that case and what that might mean for abortion access in Florida and around the country?
Sure. So mifepristone is one of two drugs that are used in medical abortions. And first and foremost, mifepristone is safe and it's effective. Don't let scare tactics and lies fool you. It's a safe drug. Um, but please remember that it remains available and accessible wherever abortion is legal in our state until the Supreme Court um, makes a ruling. So we are still able to use mifepristone in medical abortions. For those of you that may not know, a medical abortion is in our state. If you are going into an office to receive an abortion and you decide you want to have a medical abortion, you have to sit in front of your doctor. That doctor watches you take a pill, and then you have another pill that you take. I believe it's 24 hours later, and mifepristone is one of those pills. But it is effective. It is definitely very safe. It has been on the market and used for years and years and years. And it's really a tactic by anti-abortion extremists.
Yeah, thank you for raising that. And your comments on this topic, and then what Christina was talking about, like how difficult it can be having a family. This also made me think of the conversation around IVF and how extremists are just dipping their hands into this issue in so many different ways. And we saw what happened in Alabama recently, where the Alabama Supreme Court banned in vitro fertilization. We know that this is how so many families have been able to have children and to grow their families. The Alabama legislature then followed up and basically undid what the Alabama Supreme Court did. But I felt like the Alabama Supreme Court said the quiet part out loud, which is that these extremists are really trying to control our family choices. They're trying to control our destiny, and they're sticking their noses in where they don't belong. And, freedom is an American value. It certainly is a value that Floridians hold very closely and very dear. I mean, I do. And people might laugh at that, but I'm a Democrat. Yes, I want to see government be able to give people a good shot at the American dream, but then get out of the way. I don't need politicians in the exam room with me. And I say, if you are not there at my next well women's exam, if you're not in the exam room with me, you have no business trying to dictate the choices that I make. And, I realize that we are in this situation right now in Florida where we have to be talking to our friends and neighbors and family members about the impacts of these bad laws, the impacts of these Supreme Court decisions, because it's going to take 60% 60% voters in favor of Amendment 4 in order to secure it as part of our state's constitution and to protect this access. So people really need to understand the choice that we're facing. On the one hand, it could be effectively an outright ban, right? Like that's where we're headed, or we can have abortion access and choice protected in the state. It's that simple. And we have to talk to each other and make sure that we're understanding how these laws are impacting us, and make sure that people turn out. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about, as we head into November, Christina, how can people prepare themselves for the November election? If people want to support great candidates that Ruthless supports, what are ways they can do that?
Yeah, we have great candidates in every part of the state that we're supporting and we're rallying around, and the community is rallying around. These are exciting candidates who believe in, providing services for their constituents and doing what's right for what the people in their communities want and need. I think the ballot initiative is going to bring out a lot of voters and bring this to the forefront. Our job in this piece is to make sure that we have strong leaders ready in every, open seat, competitive seats, because we know that this ballot initiative, along with the presidential elections, along with really great candidates at all levels of government, are going to be drivers of this. And I think a part of what is missing there is every woman that we know has their own abortion story, and this really this issue transcends party lines. And so whether like I said, people have all different reasons why they're receiving abortion care, and it's really not anyone's place to make choices on that or decisions on that. But I know so many women in my lives who have received abortion care, again, for all different personal reasons. And so I think that that's really a driver when so many people, men and women, right? Because men have a piece of this too, have stories about how they needed abortion care at a certain moment in their lives and how it impacted them. So I think that this issue alone is going to be a big driver. And, we have women right now running across the board who believe in this issue as well. And so I think that this is going to be a driver in November.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see a time where the need for Ruthless and for Planned Parenthood was so prevalent, right? When Roe versus Wade was overturned, I can remember feeling like I got the wind knocked out of me, that we were living in a time where we have a Supreme Court that typically protects our rights, right? Like, I'm like, oh, thank God for the courts, right? Like, interpreting the Civil Rights Act and all these things, expanding our rights. And now we're at a time where they're taking rights away. And I just love that you uplifted that everybody has a story, whether they themselves have sought abortion care, they know somebody who has, whether they know that individual story or not. Statistically, we all know someone who has needed that care. So then I would say, put that same question to you, Michelle. How can we prepare for this November? And if people want to support Planned Parenthood's mission, what should they do?
So, first, I'll say preparing for November. If you have questions about the ballot initiative and Amendment 4, definitely reach out to Floridians Protecting Freedom. They are the campaign leading this, and they are going to be able to give you the best information out there regarding Amendment 4. To be able to support and learn more about our mission at Planned Parenthood, you can look at our website. All of our services are there. You can sign up to receive our newsletters and learn more about different actions that are taking place across the state. And that's PlannedParenthoodAction.org.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, ladies, I have so enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate you making time during the week on a weeknight, what I'm sure has been a busy week for all of us in light of the decisions that were handed down yesterday. But I thought it was important to bring this information to the viewers. So I appreciate you making time, and maybe we can have you back in the future.
Anytime.
And thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do, Leader Driskell.
Oh, thank you. Y'all are sweet. Y'all are sweet. So let me then talk a little bit more to you guys And again, I appreciate you so much for tuning in. I wanted to hit on a few points and just reiterate it, which is that abortion is still legal in Florida up to 15 weeks. There are no exceptions for rape, incest, or human trafficking. In about 29 days, there is a 6-week ban that is going into effect. There are exceptions for rape and I think human trafficking, but you have to prove certain things that make it actually quite difficult. I think for you to be able to get that care, a 6-week ban is problematic because most women don't even know that they're pregnant. There will be the opportunity for voters to make their voices heard at the ballot box this November by voting yes on 4. The Supreme Court has allowed that to go forward. We know that the coalition Floridians Protecting Freedom worked so hard to get petitions from Democrats, Republicans, independents, from everybody, that over 1 million Floridians made their voices heard and said that they wanted this issue on the ballot. And the Supreme Court is allowing it to go forward. So we know that that is coming as well. But just to get, real with y'all for a minute, like we do here sometimes, you have to feel this for yourself. I can tell you until you're blue in the face, until I'm blue in the face. I mean, well, maybe you also turn blue in the face because you get tired of me saying it. But the point is that we're going to have to be prepared to mobilize this November. We have got to be prepared to vote. We need to recognize that we are in a situation that is dependent on the grassroots. Yes, politicians can tell you what to do and how to vote, etc. But you got to feel this for yourself. You got to feel this in your core. You have to know and understand that we're living in a time where there are folks trying to take away our freedoms. Not just any folks, like Florida Supreme Court justices, United States Supreme Court justices. We have people in the legislature who are passing these extremist bills that are all about culture wars. You heard Christina mention some of them, whether it was the book banning or the inability to teach history accurately. And they're doing all of this while we are facing an affordability crisis. It seems to me that they have lost sight of what is important and they no longer have their eye on the ball. But I do, and I know that you do too. And that is why we're using this space to inform, to educate, but mostly to empower, to make sure that we are ready this November to have our voices heard at the ballot box and to make sure that we are electing candidates who reflect our values. Every Floridian deserves the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe, no matter what your zip code is. You all deserve that. We deserve that. But in order to have that, we have to be willing to do our part. That means we have to be willing to talk to family and to friends and to make sure that they are registered to vote. Don't wait until November. Go ahead and make sure that your people are registered to vote now. Make sure that you re-enroll to vote by mail, and make sure that you check your voter registration status, because there have been a lot of laws passed in the last few years that are putting up barriers and blocking our ability to vote or making it more difficult. And we don't want to even have those problems when it comes to the fall. So also like to leave you with some calls to action, like what can you do? You heard from Christina about how you can support women candidates. You heard from Michelle about how you can educate yourself. Go online and read more about Planned Parenthood's mission. And I love that she shared that Planned Parenthood is about so much more than abortion. It's really about providing care to people. Here are a few other things you can do. The first is you can visit FloridiansProtectingFreedom.com. That's FloridiansProtectingFreedom.com, and you can commit to vote. Again, Floridians Protecting Freedom is the coalition that is leading the way on Amendment 4. And they have great information on their website so that you can get informed, you can commit to vote, and you can figure out different ways that you want to take that message and spread it to your own networks, because it is essential that we support this effort to make sure that this passes this November. The second thing that you can do is you can donate. You can go to my website, venturesforflorida.com, and you can give. This is essential because part of my role as Democratic leader is to go out and try to win more House seats. Why does this matter? Right now in the legislature, Democrats are 36, while there are 84 Republicans. You can hear that that is quite out of balance. This puts us in a situation where the Republicans have a supermajority and Democrats are in the super minority. The reason why it matters to win enough seats to break the supermajority is because it then gives us as the minority party certain tools that we need to help stop and block some of these bad bills from happening. It is essential for our democracy. It is essential for government here in the state of Florida. This past January, I was able to lead a team in coordination with the state party, local party, donors, volunteers from across the state, coalition partners. It was magnificent. It was just this beautiful, diverse coalition on the center left. And we all worked together to get Tom Keene elected in Central Florida. So he is now Representative Tom Keene, and I am honored to serve with him. But the way that we were able to do that was that we had the resources to fight. And we were able to knock over 68,000 doors. And we were able to tell our story, to tell Tom's story. He is a naval veteran. He's a naval commander. He stands up for all of our rights and freedoms, including a woman's right to choose. And it was important to be able to talk to voters about that. So when you give, I'm not just asking you to give for giving's sake. I'm asking you to give because we have an important job to do. And that is to go out and to break the Republican supermajority and to try to bring some balance here back in the state of Florida. And then the third thing, like I mentioned, this is grassroots. This is all about education and empowerment. So please like our content, follow us on social media, share this content on your own pages and with your own friends. It helps us immensely to get the word out because we want to just see an avalanche of voters this fall. You heard it. We need at least 60% to pass Amendment 4. We're going to need everybody to show up and vote up and down the ballot so that we can help right the ship and get rid of some of this extremism in Florida. I want us to focus on issues like property insurance, housing affordability. How are we going to help your family thrive, not just survive? Because you deserve that. You deserve a government that cares for you and that always is thinking of you and that has its eye on the ball. So that's all that I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, you're also always welcome to go to our website and share your stories. You can also connect with us on social media and share your stories. We'd love to hear them. Thank you again for tuning in. Everybody stay safe, and I will see you next week. Take care.